Ladies and gentlemen, it is time, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Today is Wednesday, and we are having a Wednesday special. This time around, a political Wednesday with Anthony Sear and Dennis Ja. I am Anthony Sear, and I'm co-hosting with Mr. Dennis Ja in this edition of our broadcast. Welcome and welcome to the broadcast. Please don't forget, don't waste no time to hit that share button. We are a couple of minutes behind and we want to get down to business. In the house, we have our chief political analyst, Mr. Wilbon Cooney, and an affiliate analyst here at Focus on Liberia, Mr. Desmond Finlay. The two analysts, sometimes they come with a different perspective on the issues. And so we are here to discuss some trending national issues. But I will send it over to my man Dennis Ja for further introduction of the show, and we will get down to business. Mr. Ja, I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is, as Mr. CS said, this is our Wednesday, Political Wednesday, we call it. And we are going to be discussing some hot button issues ranging from the rape protests and the politics around that. We will also talk about the president's image being on the billboard to promote referendum 2020, and also the fallout from the protest. We saw some physical altercation, and we'll also be discussing political carpet crossing, the history, the impact, and the politics of it all. Again, welcome to our viewers. We want to welcome my man, Desmond Tutu Finlay. Mr. Finlay, who's going to be playing an analytical role here. Mr. Finlay, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
Okay, Mr. Finlay is gradually emerging to be a top political analyst right here on Focus on Liberia. Welcome to our chief political analyst. They call him the old man, Mr. Wilbon Cooney. Mr. Cooney, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
And we want to welcome our viewers from across the globe. There are a lot of things happening back home in our country. And we have gathered this crack political team with Mr. Anthony Sear, the FOL political bulldog, so that we can analyze what's going on and give you what this all means. Mr. Sear, back to you.
Mr. Ja, thank you. And we can't have our audience waiting. This promises to be an interesting political discussion here. And folks, let's get started. You heard Dennis, we are going to look at political carpet crossing in our first segment here. And we will be looking at a little bit of history and some examples of political carpet crossing. Hey, who can I better ask when it comes to this other than Mr. Wilbon Cooney, who has been around? He is a progressive and he has seen a lot when it comes to political carpet crossing. But Mr. Cooney, this is what I know. I am reminded of Oscar Kuya, UPP to NDPL. What's going on there? Hold on, folks. Let's make some adjustment here. There is a feedback. There is a feedback. Hold on. All right. I hope that is resolved. Let's get started here. So, as I was saying, Oscar Jai Kuya, MPP to NDPL, Edwin Snow. We know Edwin Snow at some time went to the Unity Party. J. Number Slow and Milton Tiaje to the CDC. The Fariga brothers, we are not saying they joined the CDC, but they left the opposition camp. And from my observation, they kind of went in the middle. Some people accuse them of trying to side with the Weah administration, something people least expected because of their advocacy against the government at the time. So this thing is not new. But we will bring in Mr. Cooney to put some context around it historically. Mr. Cooney, this political carpet crossing is not new, isn't it?
No, I mean, something definitely is not new. That's something that has been part of our political process for a long time. Mm-hmm. As you indicated, even in the days of the NDPL, I mean, there were people crossing party lines to go to another political parties. What is clear about the Liberian experience is that unlike other places where you find the movement from one party to the other party is ideologically driven, in the Liberian context, most of the time, when politicians move across party lines is actually what I call the law of self-preservation. They want to preserve, they want to preserve themselves. They want to keep themselves alive. And it is there, it is based on.
You mean they want to keep their pot boiling?
They want, to keep their pot boiling. So they make the analysis of the political situation in the country, and they determine that, well, I will be better off if I cross party lines. So that is the unique thing about the Liberian experience. In other societies and other countries, you find out that, especially in developed societies, you find out that people are most likely to cross party lines if there is a disagreement on party ideology, on party vision. But in our country, where political parties are not driven by these ideological and vision center agendas, people cross party lines basically on the basis of personal considerations. But having said that, what I find interesting is that if you look at the recent wave of party crossing, I think it favors the ruling coalition. And I think there is something that we need to analyze from that.
Right. So Mr. Kuni, hold that thought. We're going to come to the implication and what it's all about. We just wanted to. So let me bring Desmond in on the history of it. Desmond, I remember quite well when Oscar Jaikuya, a member of the United People's Party, the government, the NDPL government, I think they were about to investigate him. There were all kinds of investigation going on. So at the time he crossed from UPP to NDPL, all of those charges were dropped. And you could see when his party chairman, Gabriel Barcos Murphy, appeared on television that night, he looked so rattled that he didn't expect that to happen. Fast forward, when President Sirleaf took office, you found out that the House was predominantly CDC. They were in the majority. Within no time, there was a lot of cross-carpeting, moving from other parties to join the ruling party. So just like Mr. Kuni was saying, joining the ruling party is nothing new. They always, most of the time, they leave those parties to go to where the grass is greener.
Or where the pot is boiling.
Exactly, to keep that pot boiling. So let's go into the history. What do you know about the history and what has been the pattern?
So from a historical perspective, in my opinion, I think this is just something very usual, right? This happens a lot when there's no party structure or for support. So I look at it from an economic standpoint. When the ideology of is like, so most of the things I consider in Liberia from politicians, the people that are not that don't presently have jobs, they're just advocates. They're advocating for something particular until they get a certain job. And once that job is attained, you have to sustain that job or sustain whatever it is you have to sustain. And at that point, the sustainability is dependent on economics. Now, if you have an ideology as a political party without economics to sustain your ideology, the chances of people flopping to go into government to the ruling party side is easy, because you will see, like in today's case, I think prior to the election of CDC government, there were more senators that weren't in the CDC. They've been joining CDC little by little by little by little. I think CDC have more senators in the Senate right now than anybody else. And then one party per se. I'm not saying a combination of party, or one party CDC got the most. And the reason being is, if you look at these guys funding for re-election, like you saying to keep that pot boiling, That's one aspect. But I look at the party the funny of elections. If I'm a senator running up in this coming election, I running in Bond County, MPP is not going to fund me. I will have to fund my own race, right? Therefore, the chances of me getting funding from the ruling party and make a political connection with the ruling party to sustain my race is higher than me running on my own party to sustain my race, right? So I can make a deal with that devil because the party itself is most parties themselves aren't financially stable to do anything sustainable in the country at any point in time for any individual partisan. So the ideology that you have in a poor country, most people have the same ideology. Everybody want to take the people out of poverty. But how you want to do it, that's where the discussion lies. So therefore, you have parties that can support the individuals when times for elections and times like these, when it comes to funding elections, in times like these, people gravitate towards the ruling party because the ruling party has the finances at the point in time to sustain the elections. So I just think that's one way to look at it. From a pure money standpoint, I think that's just one way to look at that.
Thank you. That's Bonfine there, providing some historical context around the issue. Dennis, you wanted to comment?
No, go ahead.
All right. Mr. Cooney, I
Uh,
know you wanted to make the point that if it comes to political carpet crossing, the CDC now is doing well or is in favor of the CDC. But before we get to that, I want you to address series of questions here. What is the impact of this political carpet crossing? Anything wrong with it? Any danger? Is it a bad precedent? Any form of corruption, like, in terms of politics, it says corruption in some form. That idea of looking at your chances being slim and you say, okay, I will go to the ruling party. What's your own take on those questions?
Yeah, in addressing that question, I just want to also inject something. My brother talked about the economic motivations that is driving the party crossing.
Right.
But I also got another idea. Look, I've said over and over on this forum that when a group of people call themselves politicians, when they come together and they don't have a vision, if they don't have a cause that is greater than themselves, that group is vulnerable to all kinds of manipulations. You know, they let Thomas Sankara say, look, to train any individual who is not trained politically, that you give a weapon to that person is a potential bandit. You know, it's a potential bandit. What I'm saying is that we have to look at the issue of character. We have to look at the issue of vision. What is really motivating today's politicians? What character do they stand for? I mean, what causes that benefit the country that they stand for? So it's not just economics, because I can recall historically, there were times when politicians came together and economic was not the consideration. They didn't cross party lines because of economic reason. And I know I will generate a lot of reaction, but the progressive movement that we condemn today, there were individuals in the progressive movement, very much educated, didn't have the economic means, but they remained committed to the cause that brought them together. In fact, you find those individuals leaving government to carry on the objectives of the progressive movement. Dr. Tibote left the government as director of the budget.
Mr. Cooney, we get example of Oscar Jaikuya, who crossed over. He was a progressive, or he is a progressive.
Yeah, he's a progressive. But what I'm saying, I'm giving you another reason that it is not all economics. What I'm adding that it is not all economic. Most of the reasons that are leading to the crisscrossing are people that don't have a vision. They are not brought together by any shared vision for the country. They are not brought together by any cause greater than themselves.
Mr. Cooney, if it is the lack of vision in a political institution that as the reason for one leaving, why can't that person provide that vision? In the case of Tipotech that you were giving, why couldn't he provide that vision that was lacking and
Oh,
stay?
he did. He did. He left
Mhm.
the government and organized the movement for justice in Africa, Moja. What I'm saying is that if the reason, if the reason for which you go into politics are causes that are larger than yourself, then you are prepared to make personal sacrifices. You are prepared to ignore the economic trappings that will make you to be with the ruling establishment. And I'm just giving you the example of Tipotech, who left government to pursue causes that were larger than himself. And other members of the progressive movement that didn't cross carpet to the government. They were not rich, they didn't have no money, they were highly educated, they could cross carpet anytime. So I'm saying, in addition to the economic reasons that Desmond provided, there are other reasons that we should look at that is leading to this cross carpet. What is the character of these people? You know, why is the political ideology? What causes that actually brought them into politics? If the reason that you come to politics is only for self, then of course maybe the dominant consideration you will give your political movement will be the economic issue my brother talked about. You will always be looking for greener pasture. You will not be looking for better causes for the Liberian people. You will be looking for greener pasture. Now you talk about the CDC. What I said earlier was that the cross carpeting seems to be going into the direction of the CDC, maybe for the same economic reasons that my brother alluded to earlier. But I'm also trying to say that.
And are you happy with that? Do you like that?
Huh?
Are you happy with that? Do you like that? Is that a good thing?
No, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I like people that believe in causes that benefit the entire country. I don't put myself for individual causes. So I don't think economic reasons should be the factor for which you should move from party to party. I want a broad vision of the country. I want us to debate the vision of the country. What is your vision as a politician, and what is the vision of the other person? Because it is true that we move the ideas that we hold, the ideas that we believe in are the ideas that will benefit Liberia. It's not a movement. It's not a movement of one politician from party to party on economic reason alone.
What is the danger in that, Mr. Kune, if you may? What is the danger in that? I know you're trying to say that this is politics as usual, but what is the danger in it?
The danger in it, Anthony, the clear danger in it is that it cheapens the political space in our country.
Okay.
Because politics should be about ideas, competing ideas that will advance the cause of the nation. It should not be based on individual consideration as to where my bread would be butter, you know, so it deprives our country of leadership, of true leadership. That's the danger that it has, that it brings on us. Right now, our country needs serious ideas. Our country needs individuals with serious character, solid character, that will move us from one level to the other. And if people are moving because, you know, it is that personal consideration of the pocketbook, if it's only the pocketbook that is, you know, is moving people, then we cheat ourselves if we encourage that kind of behavior.
Thank you, Mr. Wilmer Kulinda. So let me come to you, Desmond. From what we have just learned from the little piece of history we discussed on this political carpet crossing, we have discovered that people do that for their own, you know, economic well-being politically, you know. So why is this noise about Majabate doing the same thing, you know, going to the greener grass, going where the pot is boiling, Christmas Silly to doing the same thing? Why are we hearing all this noise?
I personally can. I'll just go back to what I was saying. What prior to me, I want just what Mr. Cummings said. Mr. Cummings was talking about. Mr. Cummings.
Okay.
Mr. Cummings, I give you that as a reference. That's the majority of the reason why people are leaving now. I wholly agree with your point that people should leave party based on ideology, because if you stand for something, money wouldn't drive you to something. And I agree with you on that point. But I'm giving you an analytics as we have it now. The analysis here has been proven most of the people jump to this party, these ruling parties, because that's where the grass is greener, right? And prior to Dr. Tipo Tete making the move on the Middle Moja, there was a one-party system, right? So we didn't see carpet crossing from party to party until the 80s. So relatively, this is 40 years, so it's a 40-year experience, which has been consistently happening over the time. So now when I try to, I don't want to address my friend and brother Christmas personally, or I don't know my Jabatel, but I know Christmas personally. And as a fellow veteran, I look at Christmas actions, and what I see from Christmas here is Christmas is a sedition. Has never argued that, has never disputed that, has never been any way about that. Christmas, at some point in time, fell off with his party and started supporting Darius Dillon. That's an individual. Dillon ran as an independent. No, a Liberty Party partisan, not independent. That's an individual. Started supporting Dillon and went ahead and casted all kinds of things on Facebook here. And proofs are there, including my Chabatel. So me seeing Christmas going back to the party that he's from, it's not even offensive to me. I can find that to be offensive. Yes, here's why. Every individual is entitled to make a decision regarding his or hers life. Now, whether the public will punish him for that action, Christmas gets to a ballot or decides to run for a seat,
Mr. Finney, Mr. Finney, let me push you here a little bit. I agree with you that you will continue. I agree with you that Christmas did not leave his party officially. He communicated that throughout, but he was clear on why he was supporting Senator Dillon. But he's yet to come clean why he is not supporting Dillon, even though it is his right. The principles, the reason for which he supported Dillon are clear to most of us who follow the politics. But his leaving Dillon now is like,
right.
okay, he's being induced to my understanding. Don't you see that?
I don't see any inducement. I don't believe anybody have asked him why he left Dillon. I haven't heard the questions. All I've seen against Christmas are insults. I see people that I used to praise Christmas yesterday actually commented on a post today, or the guy praising Christmas, calling Christmas using some derogatory terms against Christmas. How is that moving the politics forward by insulting Christmas? Call Christmas, ask Christmas why. I haven't heard one person ask Christmas why he left, why he went back to CDC. And I believe the reason why people are asking because that's Christmas, right? Christmas doesn't have to explain to anybody why he's going anywhere. Christmas is younger than me. I think Christmas is like 29, 30 years old. Christmas has his whole life ahead of him. Now let's step away from Christmas for a second. Right? Step away from Christmas for a second. You got the vice presidential candidate that ran against George Weah. Right after the election, we were one of the first people to get a job. Nukwe, one of the first people to get a job. Yeah, Dr. Colley was in early government. After the election, the very first post he made was a happy CDC post.
Don't forget your brother.
No, my brother didn't. I'm gonna get to my brother. My brother left Unity Party after in August, so that was before the election. My brother left in August.
You are talking about people who first got job in the CDC government. Your brother was one of the first persons.
I was talking about people that was joining at the time.
Okay.
My brother was the first person to ever get a job in CDC government. He was one of the first 5 ministers I ever appointed. But my brother left Unity Party, left supporting Joseph Braga in August. But that's not my issue. That's my brother's decision.
Okay.
If you ask my brother can tell you verbatim why he left Unity Party. The records are there. He was just on a show with Astro the other day and tried to explain the same thing over and over. But that's my brother and his political career. He's a better politician than I think I will ever be. Mm-hmm. But that's not my point. My point here is there are people that control policy and directions of policy. Look at Edwin Snow today. Right? That affect people's lives in a way that's more tremendous. But we're here discussing Mark Jabater and Christmas Shelley. Why are we wasting our time? These are young people that have little to no means, right? But they have They have so
Because the young people should be the change. They should be the paradigm shift. Because we have done the thing over and over and we have gone nowhere. So we think that the young people, you and me, Christmas and Jabata should be different this time. That's why.
this, and this is what you see when people say should, could, and would. These are all terms as related to somebody else's standard.
Mhm.
Now, Christmas going back to CDC, where Christmas is from. That's what, in my opinion, that's what Christmas should be.
All right. So my question to the both of you is, and that's the point I know Mr. Kone wants to come in. So first of all, when people cross carpet, we know that they are all different standards because people are different. We give example of Oscar Kuya, of Evan Snow, of Milton Tiaje, big political heavyweights crossing carpet. And there are some, but my issue here is with the people, right? Like we saw Christmas Silly, for instance, and Mark Jabate, how they were very active, politicking against the government. And when they are doing that, you see that their fellow opposition people or their fellow partisans who love that tune, they are all praising them. When they flip
Right.
the other side without any reason whatsoever, and the same people get up and say and call them all kinds of names. So what is going
Correct.
on here, especially with the people, with the other politicians? Is it that we have no standards and we just join because the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
But Dennis,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Kone, can I just 5 minutes?
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Kone, I beg you, can I just this for 5 minutes?
Go ahead.
Remember a few weeks, I think I called into that show with you, Dennis. There was a guy that was a seditious before, and then flipped. Now it's not a seditious. Every time he gets on the show, I forgot his name, man. You're on the show with you with a guy, the other seditious guy on the show one day, and I called in.
They say Joe
But long story,
Jackson.
he supported CDC. This guy that said I went to Liberia, somebody want to give
Joe
me money.
Jackson, I believe.
No, but he said he went to Liberia. Joe Jackson, the one that went to Liberia, he told the Samuel to where they want to get him money. They say,
Oh,
people never
D-Flow.
going to
D-Flow,
Liberia. Then he came
D-Flow,
back.
D-Flow
Yeah, I
flow.
supported Joseph. Exactly. D-Flow. When D-Flow came on, supporting Unity Party, supporting Joseph Baga now, if you see the level of credibility that D-Flow got, and I made the same reference that I'm making today. Why is D-Flow important? Why is D-Flow important? If D-Flow flip-flops and go back to Lofa County and sit there, and the people in Lofa County listen to D-Flow, then the people in Lofa County problem. Because at the end of the day, you hold people accountable for the actions that people take. Now, I cannot say I will hold you accountable, but I cannot question your decision as a man.
Okay.
In a sense, in the case of Christmas Silly, Christmas went back to his party. I don't know where Mike Jabate came from. Christmas didn't do nothing but go back him.
Right.
And
But my problem is if we the people that welcome Christmas Silly and were all buddy with him when he was this anti-government force,
yeah,
where is our own standard?
exactly. That's what I'm trying. You make my point. We don't have no standards because we just want to hate, right? The venture that Christmas is feeling right now is the same level of anger that the same level of happiness that the people had towards Christmas or Christmas came has just been transgressed into hate. It has crossed that virtual line of hate and love and hate. Now, because the hate of George Weah, that's why that what transferred into love when Christmas came. The same love for George Weah has now transferred back into hate. So they're using that hate to hate on Christmas. But why put too much of your stock into a Christmas Silly? Why put your emotion into a Christmas Silly? Come out with plans. Like Mr. Kuni said the other day. And I went against you on our speech. You were talking about the speech. They didn't propose anything for the Liberian people, the Eric's coming speech. Right? You can always tell me I'm doing bad. But tell me what kind of good you will do for me different. But because nobody wants to spend that time and effort into stuff like that, it's easier to put it into hate. So you buy into a Christmas Silly, you spend your time to a Mark Jabate, you spend your time to a D-Flow, and when they move from your ideology, now you're a hater.
Thank you. And let's come to you, Mr. Cooney. The question I want to add, whatever thought you had, is so what is true? Christmas City is going home politically, but this guy was vilifying the CDC and everything about the CDC. And he's gone home, and CDC is saying, singing this political hallelujah. And he's their guy now, and he is their campaign dog. What is going on?
Listen, what is going on in our country with regard to the specific question you asked and all other things that we talk about mostly on this platform is, what I call the duplicity of the Liberian character. I've always said that, the duplicity of the Liberian character. Look, take Costa. During the elections, when Costa was causing George Weah all of the statements, everything he was saying against George Weah, Costa, was welcomed by the Unity Party. But after the election, when Costa went to CDC, he enjoyed a brief treatment of acceptance, and then Costa flopped back to his anti-George Weah something. So this is the kind of situation we have, and we will continue to have this situation until our politics is organized around something, not just against somebody. This is the point I always make. We have to organize our people around something, around some shared idea, some shared vision that the people will see their interest in. But if the politics is just the politics of let's be against this person, let's be against this person, if the politics is just the replacement of someone who is in power because we don't like that person, there is no vision that is holding people together, then all of these things will happen. People will move back up and backwards between politicians because what they see is politicians themselves are moving around based on, what is on their table.
Yeah.
You see, I'm not, look, the issue of younger people or the less prominent people crossing, is something to look at. But I'm looking at the most prominent people. I'm asking myself here, what goes into the decision of somebody elected at the Liberian Senate on a party ticket? The Liberian Senate that has all the trappings of power, all of the financial benefits and everything, or somebody elected to the House of Representatives. I'm thinking, what goes into the calculation of that person who is elected on one party, leaving their party to another party? That's what I'm thinking. What is the calculation?
And Mr. Cooney, I'm with you on that. This is very profound.
They're not like the ordinary, if I say ordinary in a sense, they're not like the other people we're talking about that really don't have any means of sustainability. These are sitting members of the House of Legislature that have everything. They have all the youth salaries, they got all the benefits, but they are moving in between parties. And sometimes that leads me to believe that if somebody who is already secure financially and everything, if they are moving from their party, for example, to go join the ruling party, then it may not be for economic reason. Maybe it may be based on the realization that that person finds the policy of the ruling party to be applicable to save their job. Or else why will you go there?
I beg to disagree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
For me, here is what I'm thinking about when I see that happen.
Right.
The issue of integrity. And we're going to roll a clip and play something from Mark Jabate. So look at this person. It started when the politics got hot. We saw the Fadiga brothers. They are my good friends. They became the darling of the opposition, and whatever they said was was quoted on all the social media platforms.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when they stopped, they became vilified by the same people that were singing Hosanna to them. Now, so my issue now is like Christmas Silly. I watch him during the protests in DC. I mean, he has a blood stain on him to wear some Kool-Aid water to demonstrate blood.
Yeah.
And he was the darling. And I saw Mr. Sia was there.
I was there.
And we also saw Man Jabate will come and use some languages to describe the ruling party and elements of the ruling party. Now, when these people go back, there's a red carpet for them. So where is this integrity? Do they trust them? Like if Mark Jabata goes back to supporting Fala, does Fala really believe that Mark is there, or is there, okay, whatever way, let me get what I'm able to get? And the same thing on the opposition. When these people, when Henry Costa, for instance, who for a brief period was praising and hailing George Weah, the president, now goes back to the opposition and he becomes the darling of the opposition. Does anybody care to look at the integrity of these individuals, or is it like, well, whatever it is, the end justify the means?
Mr. Ja, they don't care, and the only thing they care about is that the person is on their side to sing that political hallelujah that their side sings. You are right. Costa was on mute, politically speaking, when the $16 billion news broke. He was quiet. We were there for 10 months. This guy told us he received $5,000 as a token for propagating for the government or being in the government corner for 10 months. Today, he insults the president, and because of that, he is their hero. They call the guy a hero. Look, people need to understand here that the individuals have made their own personal decision to be for or against. The idea that you hail them when they are on your side and you go after them when they are not on your side, it speaks to you who is pandering in this manner that you yourself don't stand for anything. So all the accusing fingers you raising as the government is pointing at you because you are precisely doing the very thing. The man Jabate and Crispin Silly, who've been looking at in a different manner now, if they come back to the very opposition will welcome them. Just as the CDC is welcoming a man Jabate who called Thomas Fala a criminal, and Thomas Fala will hold his hand. This country is done. Dennis Jai, when it comes to integrity, no one is standing for anything. And that is why Mr. Cooney is wondering that maybe it's not because of money, because people in the Senate are doing that. It got me thinking too, are they doing it for security? But it boils down to how your path keeps budding. And that's why it is, Mr. Cooney. If you look at it over and over, it will come back to the same thing. Let's look at men like man senator of Grand Crew County or Peter Coleman. This guy is a medical doctor. This guy has his own clinic. The guy were in charge Taylor government was one of the longest serving ministers. I know him today. He has no reason whatsoever to even join the CDC in the first place, but he did. So, I mean, I am as confused as you are, Mr. Cooning, but at the end of the day, it comes down to they keeping that part body, and that's why it is. Let's roll the clip, Dennis, of Man Jabate endorsing Darius DeLong, and then we will come back to our panelists.
Today, or that will best with you. When we voted you, when I call you, you did not respond to my call. Or through the invitation of some of my colleagues from America. And I'm here today to endorse you on and the rest assured, by the grace of Almighty Allah, you're going to win. I don't need money from you. I want to see better Liberia. That's my whole interest. You're doing well, and I will not betray you. Because the issue of Cabinet Janet is stood by Cabinet Janet. Sure. And at this time, I will stand by you. By the grace of God. And maybe, and next time when I call you now, answer my call as a leader. So today.
You do not go to share him.
Yeah.
We'll watch it. We'll watch
it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, and thank you to all of you. Please wait, and thank you to all of you. Mark, you've been doing long before all these things. I know you. I know your penetrating heart. I know how when you want go for something, you go for it. So that way.
And so, folks, you heard it right there. That was Man Jabate endorsing Senator Darius DeLong and praising him. and telling him that he will stand by him and he will not let him down. Today, Mark Jabate has turned his political missile against Darius DeLon, even though he promised him that he would stand by him, that he will not let him down. And you people are aware of a video that we will not play here because of the language contained in it, talking about the only person who will vote for Thomas Fala is the person whose mother and father didn't do the thing good to born them good. This is the man now who Thomas Fala has welcomed as one of his political allies to campaign for him, or because this guy is desperate for a Senate seat. This guy has been in the Senate pretty close to 18 years, and he will bury his integrity in this manner. Dennis, your take.
The integrity issue. Let Mr. Cooney and Mr. Finley weigh on the integrity issue, and then we move on.
All right, Mr. Cooney.
Yeah, again, look, gentlemen, we have to improve our politics. People made tremendous sacrifices for the democratic space that we have today. People die. People sacrifice their career. The country went through a lot. What we have in our country today is what we call quantitative democracy. That's what we have. The singing, the dancing, the carpet crossing. We have to elevate our politics to a qualitative level. We have to build political institutions that produce vision for our country and organize people around those visions. Look, until we do that, all of these things we observing will continue to have. Everybody think that the easiest way to jump to the limelight is to be very bombastic, to use bellicose language. Nobody is addressing any issue, but there is that feeling that if I use this kind of language, if I become bombastic this way, either for somebody that I'm against or for somebody that I'm for, I will have this national name recognition. We are a little bit older. People that came to fame in our country didn't exhibit that kind of behavior. They were able to look for issues that brought Liberians together. They were working with market women. They were working with mine workers. They were working with the student community. They were engaging in adult literacy program. They were doing things that awaken the consciousness of the Liberian people. But for some reason, I think we've tolerated the fact that bombacity, coarse language are the things that are required in our political dispensation. We find people that are supposed to be serious, parley around with people with vulgarity, as if to say they are endorsing that form of political speech to be vulgar. These are the issues that we have to face. Liberia got a lot of issues. It will continue to push for some of these issues. Where are the politicians when it comes to the issue of decentralization? Where are they? Everybody is quiet. Even the propositions that are on the ballot today, where are the politicians? Who is talking about dual citizenship? Who is talking about reduction in the tenure of elected officials? Who is talking about the transformation of our land tenure system in the country? These are the issues. No, these things, they require hard work. And since the work is so hard, the easiest way that, we're quoting all these people. Right. What have they done politically besides causing people? What have they done?
Picking the low-hanging fruit. Let's bring in, let's bring in Desmond in the discussion so we can move on to the next.
So the first thing here, this political race is not about integrity. Because clearly the voting race, the voting bloc in Liberia don't vote for integrity. The people don't vote for integrity. So integrity isn't on the ballot. So why are we even discussing integrity, in my opinion? Now, yes, the addition, I can tell you, Anthony, why will a Thomas Fala sit and have a discussion with a Mike Jabate? Mike Jabate and Dylan is in a discussion, right? Publicly, everybody see goes on that. He's publicly supporting him. And politically, that person comes to me, even if I don't have faith in their judgment, right? The political news and marketing that I get from that immediate endorsement saying I do not support this person anymore because of X, is valuable to me at that point in time. Like Mr. Josh said earlier, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So it's not nothing deep. It's not about billing, or I really trust this person, or I do not trust this person. That's not what it is. It's the immediate drawback, the immediate effect that you get from that immediate discussion. It discredits your opponent. Now, I'll give you an example. Henry Costa supports CPP. CPP went and had Ellen Johnson at Unity Party headquarters the other day. Costa gets on the air and called Ellen a witch. You saw the amount of vitriol that Costa got that day? In my opinion, what Costa was saying, I'm not saying he was right or wrong, but what he alluded to say why he was calling her a witch, it backs the whole CPP discussion. Right? Ellen gives or George Weah. So why are you even sitting there discussing with Ellen? So if you as an individual in this political space where integrity isn't an issue, sit down and have, I'm not saying you're not going to win. I'm not saying you're not going to win. But what's going to happen to you, you'll be 100-year-old and you'll win in your house.
Yeah.
You and your children will vote for you. I'm not saying that's the way for the country to go, but that's how the country is.
Right. And I tell you a story about a police officer who was collecting bribes. So they had a very deep pocket and he gets the money, he puts it in a pocket. So the guys that were passing, they say, what's about your police ethics? You are doing this. And you know what he told them? When I go home and my children ask me for food, that ethic I will give them.
That ethic I will get it.
But I have to pay my school fees. I can't go to the school and say, yeah, ethics. So you're painting a very dire picture here. That nobody cares for integrity is not on the ballot. That's not what people worry about. And so where we go from here?
But I come in, Desmond, quickly, just to reinforce the point what Desmond making, Dennis, do you know of how many reputable Liberians, I'm not saying perfect, I'm saying reputable Liberians that cannot even enter a political race in our country, not because they lack character, but because they don't have the financial muscle. The politics in our country today is transactional. The politicians appear, you do what you will do for the electorate elect you. There is nothing strategic, there is nothing long-term. So the people, for some reason, are able to hang on to some financial means are the people that join these races. So the environment is like that. And what that environment encourages is for people to continuously look for the butter. Where is the butter? Where the butter is heaviest. That's where they go. That's the situation we have. It's not buried, but we got to work. We got to do a hard work to put it back. We got to do a hard work. We got to stop. I don't want to put that burden on the politicians, because with leadership, when you're in leadership, it comes responsibility. We as leaders, and if I say leaders, I'm not even talking about governmental leaders alone, civil society leaders like us that are on this platform, religious leaders, or student leaders, all of us, we have a responsibility to educate our people. Again, I go back to the issue of civic education, where somebody said, I was thinking about North Korea indoctrination camp. No, I'm talking about us engaging our people and educating them of their civic duty and their civic responsibility. You cannot give somebody power for 6 years for 6 cup of rice. You can't do that. But we got to work with our people for our people to be aware of the things that we're talking about. No, it's not. It's not. That should be the responsibility of political parties. That should be the responsibility of interest group. That should be the responsibility of other civilian organizations. I mean,
Well, a lot of things are government responsibility, but these are all shared responsibilities. Government is supposed to ensure, for instance, that the Constitution is taught in all schools, and its principles are, disseminated. Government is not doing that. Okay, so we are at this point, but it doesn't excuse our politicians and our civic institutions from doing something. For instance, election is coming, right? There is also referendum on the ballot, but nobody's talking about it. Okay, government who most of the time government official who benefits or politician who benefits from the ignorance of the people, they will not do anything about it.
exactly.
Right, because it benefits them if the people are in the dark. So nobody's going to do it if politicians right now, because if we reduce the tenure of, let's say, the president and lawmakers, that benefits the people. But politicians who want that job want that same 9 years and 15 years and 16 years, right? So they don't want to do anything about it. So it becomes a chicken and egg situation now. What do we do? But yeah.
It has been politicized. It's like when I saw the rally yesterday, and to hear there was an anti protest against that, I was blown away. I was like, you rarely have people anti protesting rape in Liberia, and their justification was pure political. They're saying that the people that organized the protest were politicians, so therefore it's a political race, and they had to be there anti-protest. How do you have a protest for rape and you have anti-protest? And some of the anti-protesters were women, So to answer that question, plain point blank, yes, it has been politicized. Has been politicized. Like everything in Liberia, that has been politicized too. So let Mr. Conan come and take it.
Mr.
Tony, take it from here.
Mr.
Because like the
Cooney,
reason why I don't like
who
to
you
talk
think
about
is
this,
politicizing the issue of rape? The opposition is doing it, or both are guilty of politicizing this fight against rape?
Well, look, to be honest with you, and here I put my former law enforcement cap on. First of all, let me state that rape is one of the heinous crimes that anybody can commit. And we've been having this problem for a long time. Rape, like all the other crimes that we have in Liberia, they've always been there. The society will have to do better. We have to improve our system as to how we respond to the incidents of rape, to the incidents of other forms of violence, gender-based violence. We have to do that. There are challenging times in Liberia. Law enforcement is under enormous pressure in our country. So we got to have that discussion with a clear view of, first of all, the capacity of law enforcement response to those kind of incidences. Everything in Liberia is a challenge. Education is a challenge, health is a challenge, infrastructure challenge, and trust me, law enforcement is also a challenge. So we have to do better to improve our capacity to respond to these things. It is unfortunate that people will politicize it. It's the same thing we have here in America. Coronavirus is being politicized. Wearing masks is a political issue. There are people who think that they can score points, on the issue of coronavirus, whether you should wear masks, whether you shouldn't wear masks, So it is unfortunate that these things are happening. Rape is a very serious offense in the country, and it should be taken at that. And sometimes the way the discussion goes, some people want to present the discussion that maybe this is the first time, that this is happening. And sometimes if you present the discussion that way, then you may have pushback from other people. Let us recognize it as a problem. For me, I know rape has been in Liberia for a long time. Rape like all other crimes. But like other issues that have escalated over the period, based on our experience as a nation, that led to the diminishing of other things in the country, the capacity of law enforcement in that country is diminished. It's not just a lack of personnel. We're talking about training. We're talking about a lot of issues. So we have to remove the politics and focus on the professional response to this issue of rape and crime in general in our country. Mind you, during the previous 12 years, many people don't know this. During the 12 years of Madam Sirleaf government, there were more than 20,000 international military and law enforcement personnel in our country. You have almost 15,000 UN peacekeeping troops and close to about 4,000 United Nations police, in addition to the Liberian National Police. Today, all of that international assistance is gone. All of that international assistance is gone. So we need to recognize that challenge, and we need to do better. We need to improve training. We need to improve capacity so that we can have the ability to respond to these issues. Look at many times they arrest somebody for rape. It's not just the arrest. You go to court, you don't have the evidence, the victim goes. But in Liberia, we focus on arrest too much. Everything is arrest. But what about the investigation that's supposed to collect the necessary evidence and put the culprits behind bars?
Thank you. Let's look at the politics again, and let me go to you, Desmond. It's two things. First is, let's say Desmond is already an activist, an advocate, or an opposition, or a politician. And because Desmond has been on social media criticizing the government, for instance, if Desmond is talking about rape or is talking about a genuine issue, criminal activities that people are supposed to listen, but because Desmond yesterday was criticizing the government, so whatever comes from him, we're not going to listen. That's one of the way these things have been politicized. And our country, we see these things in black and white now. You want to come in? I didn't even have. Well, go ahead.
Oh, so go ahead, Mr. I'll get to your question.
Right. Okay.
Get to your question.
So that's one aspect, and I came to realize that I think there was this 12th grader who was raped and killed, and because the way social media political activists got involved, the government just drew back, and that really hurt me. That was a turning point in my life when it comes to justice in Liberia, and because we have this binary thinking now in Liberia, this black and white, you either be opposition or government. So when these things happen, nothing is done because the way they see people that are participating and having this genuine concern, but because they are either for government or opposition, so the opposite side will just attack them and don't believe what they are saying. What's your take on that?
Yeah,
so the first thing I would like to say about this is that's me. There shouldn't be no ambivalence about race, right? There shouldn't be, oh, maybe it happened, maybe it happened. Like, people shouldn't be on both sides. But I'll tell you what happens with this. You brought up a salient point about if I'm advocating for an issue against the government, therefore when rape comes about, I advocate for rape. But this is how the advocates do it against the government. They will say there are more rapes happening in Liberia since George Weah became president. That's not true. That's just blatantly false. That's not true. The first reason why I make it not making it true, we haven't documented how many rape happened during Ellington, how many rape happened during time, how many rape happened during Tupper time. So therefore, you cannot say there's more rape happening during George Weah time. So if you're advocating against the government, right, and for an issue like rape, you come up and say there's more rape happening during George Weah time. Let's do something about it. It disarms or it arms the ruling party now from a party
Pro-government, yeah.
standpoint, not like law enforcement, not pro government people to say, you know what, that's a lie. Now the rape issue has now become political because the advocate needs to advocate for rape point blank period as opposed to saying, oh, since Georgia became president, we have more rape. When that is factually
As
false.
if that is more important. There is rape. Whether it happens in this administration
No,
or past administration, what's the big deal about this?
the idea behind it is they're not the advocates there now. They're not advocating for something genuinely. They got a political motive.
Right.
So therefore, that make rape about George Weah as opposed to taking something genuine and run with it and do something real from a good standpoint for humanity. No, they take that issue and make it political. And therefore, when programming here, I want to say no, but I'm true. So now you want to make this rape thing. Let's take a step back, which is bad on the government part too. It's completely bad because now you cannot say I'm not gonna do the necessary things for rape. Like Mr. Cody raised a very valid salient point earlier. Everything in Liberia is a challenge. Physically, everything in Liberia is a challenge. There are people in jail right now in Liberia. Talk about rape, right? People in jail right now in Liberia for 2-3 years, and the cases hasn't even got through the first stage yet. Because rape is a non-bailable offense in Liberia. So you go to jail, you're not coming out. You'll be there for 2-3 years. You're there until your kids go to court. So what's the court? What's this? How are you trying to prosecute these cases? Not everybody that get arrested is what you call it, is guilty.
Right.
But we, like Mr. Cooney said, we believe in arrest. Another thing again, people are talking about death penalty for rape or castration for rape. Like my brother said on the show, like you would prefer them to castrate people for rape. That's a slippery slope.
Right.
How many people went to jail in Liberia for rape because another politician sent a girl to them and she charged them with rape? So the level that people are going to go to abuse these things is higher than the level they're going to go to fix it.
Yeah.
They will go easier to abuse it than for them to fix it. When you're jailed in Saw Beach, anyone else been to Saw Beach lately? If they arrest criminals in Liberia, if the police arrest the people the way they're supposed to arrest people in Liberia, I can guarantee you in 1 month, Saw Beach will be full. If people are getting arrested, the way people need to be, criminals need to be arrested, like me driving, drinking, all the things, all the penal codes are being effectively construed, carried out. People will be in, you won't have a space. That's an infrastructure problem.
Right.
Yeah, so it's too big. I'm not saying we should let it go, but I'm saying it should be dealt with in a systemic manner. Where, like, other day I was telling somebody about like posting the postal service, zoning laws. I cannot build my $500,000 home, $100,000 US dollar. I take 10 years in America to pay. I pay $10,000 per year until it reaches 100,000. In 10 years, I pay my house. The next person to me gets sitting around and tell me, say, I'm gonna pay $500,000 tax. It's around me depreciating my property value.
Yeah. I don't think Liberia is there yet. How many person in Liberia will understand that?
The, the reason why I brought out Anthony, this is why I brought it up. Because for zoning laws to go into effect, the land people have to work with the people at the postal service. The postal service have to work with the people at finance. Finance people have to work with LRA. There have to be one systemic goal, right?
Anyway, that's a whole different topic, Desmond. That's a whole different topic. And Mr. Ja, for your information, the idea of a politician showing up to a political, not a political rally, a peaceful protest, people get to decide now who should be there and who should not be there. And that became one of the issues at the protest, talking about the march against rape. And Christmas Silly, we're going to roll the clip here quickly, folks. We're going to roll the clip here.
Christmas Silly is in the news tonight.
Yeah, he is the news.
Yes, it's a that's true. That's part of the.
No politicians are here. You politicians don't fight for better. Go on
So, folks, you saw it right there. Christmas Silly was speaking. No politician supposed to be here. Who is Christmas Silly? Is he not a politician? Is he not in a political party? Is he not campaigning for a political party? Is he not campaigning for a candidate? I would call him a politician. I don't know about you. This man is practicing politics. He's playing politics. But he's standing right there. He said, no politician supposed to be here. But he was there. When Darius DeLong participated in the June 7 protest, he knew it. He supported him. This time around, he is not supporting DeLong. So he shows up there and saying, no politician supposed to be here. He even wrote a post that DeLong should be in his office and not here. I thought that is DeLong's right to be at a peaceful assembly. Gentlemen, you just watched the clip. Your take, Mr. Cooney? Is Christmas right to say that DeLong was not supposed to be there?
Look, Anthony, I mean, I do understand that some of these issues, we need to discuss them, but again, these things just tell you the level to which our country, has sunk. A public protest is a public protest. And anybody that wants to attend a public protest has the right to attend that protest. We've reached a point in our country where we don't even know the limitations of our rights. We don't know where our right ends and where other people's right begin. We exercise our right in this absolute manner, as if to say we own the entire place all by ourselves. And it's all over the place. People, they believe in their right to protest. They want to exercise it to the point where they want to prevent other people from going to work. It is not how it's done here. You can protest and somebody can still go to work. Your right to protest should not block me from going to work. So all these extremities, all these extreme things that we find in our society are the product of lazy political work. We don't want to do the hard work. So we always aim for these low things that will give us attention. I don't care whether somebody is a politician. If the person wants to attend a rally, that's the right of that person to attend rally. Like you said, what right does one Liberian have to tell another Liberian not to go to a political rally? What?
And Mr. Cooney, what really puzzled me is the way we take these things seriously on both sides. I mean, why should even Christmas Silly be given relevance to determine or to pretend to determine who to be at a rally or not?
Yeah. And these people, they get promotion from these kind of nonsense. They gain fame by these kind of things. They gain fame by cursing people. They gain fame by attacking people. They gain fame by throwing rock. And we call them politicians. I disagree. Look, I grew up, these were not my politicians. And they can never be my politicians. My politicians, they put forward national issues that attracted national attention. We can disagree with that.
Right. So,
But
so
we
Mr.
can't, we can't,
Finley,
we
Mr.
can't.
Finley, why are we celebrating foolishness?
Mr. Finley, why are we celebrating foolishness? To add to that, the girl who attacked Christmas Silly, was she in the right at all to attack Christmas Silly at the rally?
She assaulted a man. How can she be in the right? You can't assault anybody and be in the right. She physically assaulted him. So there's no going if and buts about it. Christmas is clearly wrong for saying what Christmas said, right? Christmas can stop anybody from going. He doesn't have the authority to say who can come and who can go. That's not in his power,
Right.
to say what he says. But it's beneficiary to him to say what he said. It's beneficiary for Christmas. It's beneficial to Christmas to say what Christmas said at any point, at any time, because guess what? Today is today we have talked about him twice, right? He's gotten the relevance that he needs to go back to his CDC head hunch and say, you know what? You see, this is what's happening from my interaction. The girl should have never assaulted Christmas. Christmas has no right, any way, shape, or form, to say to stop anybody from going anywhere, right? Like Mr. Cooney was talking about here, you see people stopping people from moving, protests and stuff like that. You're not supposed to do that. Nobody's supposed to do that. You can't stop people from going. You get a protest route, you go by a protest route. But in the same America, we've seen it where people shut down cities. Not too long ago, Minnesota was shut down. I can guarantee tonight Milwaukee is shut down as we speak. Kenosha, Milwaukee is shut down, right? There's a place right on my street here at Federal Hill that was shut down yesterday, and we're so far away from Wisconsin. So there are times these things fall over to certain levels for certain reasons. Not justifiable, but understandable. So as wrong as the girl was for hitting Christmas, there are people that understand it. They're not justifying it, they understand it. And that in the same token, there are people that understand why. And to validate that point, Christmas had a whole group of people here for anti-protest. So there are people that validate and says that I believe in what he's saying, validating his argument that politicians shouldn't be there. But in my opinion, that's where politicians should be. A protest for RIP. If I was George Weah, I would have been at that protest yesterday. I would have been leading that protest yesterday. You know what I mean?
That's what
Because
Tubman did sometimes.
it's a universal issue. It's not a
Yeah.
parties.
All right.
But then
Thank
if you say and then intent of the people that are doing the RIP, go ahead. Let's move on.
Yeah, I just wanted for us to read a few comments from our viewers, and then we move on to our last segment for the night.
Okay.
Keller say, what is the ideological and philosophical difference between CDC and the CPP besides stealing? Dave Jai said, greed and incompetence have hijacked our politics and leadership. This is why serious Liberians are fleeing the country or do not want to be there. Jimmy Isma said, education is not prioritized in Liberia again, another reflection of where our values lie. He agreed with Mr. Cooney. He said, correct, Mr. Cooney, we practice transactional politics and non-qualitative and that of substance. It is a direct reflection of our values and morals. Few of your comments there from our first segment on the values. Back to you, Mr. Sear.
All right, gentlemen, let me progress. And folks, you can start rolling your calls in now so that you can participate and interact with our two outstanding panelists here. Our final issue, those of you watching, you just saw us showing a Bible with our president standing with the proposal that are up for referendum comes this December 2020. But Councillor Pierre Brambo is not happy with the president being in the photo there, along with the proposals that are up for re-election. And she granted a press conference. And I'm going to read something for you here, and then we'll go into the discussion. This is a front page article that came out today. Moreover, Councillor Pierre Brambo, one of Liberia's outstanding lawyers and a signatory to the 1986 Constitution, has called on President Weah to take down the banner displaying his picture and the propositions for the upcoming referendum down. She says, campaigning for the propositions now, which the NEC is yet to declare campaign, when the NEC is yet to declare campaign, is a complete violation and disregard to electoral law. Also, she noted that the referendum should not be regarded as a CDC project rather than a national project. Therefore, it is wrong for his picture to be used as campaign material for the proposition for referendum. Mr. Jha, the councillor is going after the president, so we come to our analyst. Mr. Kune, is President we are in error here or in violation here?
So let's, before Mr. Kune comes in, let's look at the two issues being raised. First is the constitutionality, that the campaign for the 2020 elections or midterm election is not open yet, so nobody should campaign for either candidates or even the referendum on the ballot. And two, a second reason is the president is promoting the referendum as a CDC event. I don't know how she determined that. So the question here is Councilor Per Brown Bull right? Let me start with Mr. Finley instead of Mr. Kune.
And why not?
It's Councilor
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Bull, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna sit here, right, and argue with a constitutional signatory whether they're right or wrong regarding the picture. I think the points the councilor laid in the article that you read was because it's not campaigning time, that violates some level of the law, the campaign laws. So the learned lawyer knows way more than I can ever allude to or think about knowing for me to sit here and argue with her on that. But here's another thing I want to propose. I would like to say, right? I don't care if the picture is on not on. I think the government is the one that's proposing the referendum to the people through the legislature. Should the picture be on it, could be the president's idea. But I think the fact that she's stressing on here is the timing of it and when it's being put out. But there's another thing that's very important here. There hasn't been a census done. We have missed the census. And because the census haven't been done, how can you have a referendum without a census? What's the total population that you bet and you gauging on to make a referendum on the people? Because a referendum is quite different from an electoral vote in the sense where you're using the populace, the judge, to make a decision about whatever it is. Now, you haven't documented how many people you have in the country for the last 10 years, and how you're going to have a referendum based on not knowing the number of people there. So that's just a point I wanted to raise. But I'm not going to be nowhere, shape, or form here saying to argue with the former justice on anything regarding that.
Mr. Kone.
Mr. Kone,
I take a different view, and I take a different view. In fact, anybody that follow my Facebook page today, you will know that I think I reacted to that. That's one of the most nonsensical things I've ever heard from anybody that claims to be a lawyer or to be a counselor. You know, look, the issues in our country are profound, and we have to find solutions to those issues. And people whose actions yesterday led us to where we are today, I think they should sometimes take a backseat when it comes to us addressing the issue that are facing our country. It is the like of Councillor Boo and other people that gave us these ridiculous 9 years and 6 years. This generation is taking action to redress that. And the only thing the councillor has to offer is the fact that she's offended that a president image is on the billboard. That is so petty. That is so petty. Given the role that she played in this entire constitutional process. Certain time we have to agree. Yeah.
She's saying that the campaign is not open yet, so the president should stop campaigning for referendum.
The president is not campaigning for referendum. I mean, you know, you can't have it both ways. You can't say the government are educating the people, but then when the government put billboard to give the people awareness, then you say the government violating the law. You can't have it both ways. You cannot.
But the president picture is he's a political figure.
It doesn't matter. In fact, I want all the politicians to put a picture on the billboard. That's how we make it a Liberian project. I want everybody who support the proposition to put their pictures, to make flyers, to make everything, to educate the people.
That's campaigning.
Well, I said that's educating the people of what the proposition is. So you can
say in that billboard, the president is urging the people to vote yes. That's not education, that's campaigning.
Exactly. The president, you see, look, that's why I say it is nonsensical for the fact that these propositions, they were debated. These were things that the president advocated for. These were things that passed by the national legislature. And the president is lending his image to it and calling on voters to approve them. Then you say, if one law violates.
Mr. Kunin, let me take you back a little bit. Mr. Kunin, allow me to take you back a little bit. The councillor must say the time and period you are talking about, when they came up with that constitution, they were coerced by a military leader to do it the way they did it.
So if you were coerced, then I say, shut your mouth. Let the people that have the will to rectify it, to rectify your cowardice during that period, let the people do the work.
And you think she's being political here, Mr. Kunin? You think she's being political here?
She's been very irrelevant. She's been very, very irrelevant. She's not contributing to the issue. Nothing she's contributing. She's being very childish. Nothing she's contributing.
Mr. Kunin, this lady is being so irrelevant today. You took your time and wrote a Facebook post about her. That's how irrelevant she's being. Right? You understand that? Just think about that for a second. She is so irrelevant. Let me finish. She is so irrelevant. You took time off your day today to construct a Facebook post regarding what she wrote and put it on your timeline. But that's a side issue. The point here that you fail, you cannot say you educating the people because you want to call it education. It's a campaign. A violation of the law is a violation of the law. If you want to change the law to say you don't have no campaign period, you change the law. That's what.
Let me call you to a point there. Let me call you to a point. To put a billboard of what you believe should happen in the election is not campaign, or else. Give me chance. Or else you will accuse every potential candidate in this election that have put their image out there. You will accuse them of campaigning.
You are still validating my point. You saying here, you're saying the woman's making selective justice. She may be making selective justice. She may be doing that. Don't get me wrong. She may be doing that. But the fact of the matter here is just because somebody does selective justice doesn't mean the person they're going after is not. That's not a. Let me finish. Slow down. You're coming to a point. So you gotta let me finish. Just because I, as a prosecutor, decide to prosecute John Paul and did not prosecute the other person doesn't mean John Paul not stealing. You understand what I'm saying? John Paul is still a rogue. If I prosecute John Paul, if I don't have time to prosecute Robert Peter today, I don't. But if I can prosecute him tomorrow, still stealing. If you want to change, I don't think Councilor.
Mr. Finley, why are you not using Liberian names like say Lakpo or something? You're using John Paul.
I never say Lakpo. I can guarantee there's a Liberian called John Paul.
Okay.
Guarantee that too, to a certain extent. But the point I'm trying to make here is not because you can't just cause only education because it suits you today. A campaigner is campaigning. It's not the time free. Now, all the councilor is saying, the same councilor was just 2 days ago praising this George Weah government. She even made a video. You watch the video? She had a video about praising Jefferson Koji and stuff like that, and George Weah. If you saying this lady is irrelevant, but you can spend the time of your day to construct a whole Facebook post and post it, then that person is not relevant. That person is highly relevant in your life. Secondly, the fact of the matter here is this is not campaign time. When it's campaign time, post it up for campaign. I don't have a problem with the president picture in it. It's his idea. He proposed this idea. I would support my picture on it too. So that's it.
So can I come in now?
Yes, go ahead. Go for it.
Look, listen. I'm not talking
All
about
participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
I'm not saying she pursuing the president selectively. Brother Philip, that's not my point. I'm saying she is completely wrong to call it a campaign. It's not. Because to agree with her that it is a campaign, then almost every individual who name and faces that we've seen in the paper has been prospective candidates in the election are violating the law. That's the point I'm making. What you see out there is just the picture of the president and the proposition, just like the way you see.
Who says they are not? Who says they are not violating the law by doing that?
The election
who says those politicians are not violating the law by campaigning now?
The body that is responsible for election has not made that determination. She's not on the election commission. She's not an election commissioner. And the reason why,
Mr. Cooney, you think who determines that or who makes that determination? Is it the election body or the law governing the election body?
It is the election commission that make decisions on electoral matters, period.
But what does the law say about campaign? And that's her point. And I think I agree with her.
But I'm telling you, look, gentlemen, when you're asking this question, you're giving me, I'm saying that there is no campaign going on. There is no campaign going on. If you accept the councillor's statement that the picture of the president is campaign, then you must also accept that candidates that are posting their picture up, that are printing materials, going all the places, they are campaigning, which is not. They're not.
Are you talking about the WIA project? Are you talking about the WIA project?
No, not the WIA project. Forget this WIA project today.
My man, look, let me make my point.
Mr. Cooney,
let Mr. Cooney land, Dennis. Let Mr. Cooney land. Look at they better boy, yeah, it's better for him.
There's no better boy. There's no better boy. And the point, I just want to, the point that Philip made that if I find a woman is irrelevant, why did I take my time to respond to her? Because individuals like these, they have a long history of misinforming our people. So when we see them, we must speak, we must expose them. They are the ones that are responsible for some of the tragedy that has befallen our country. When they had a chance to make the constitution right, they sat down in Banga and imposed those unreasonable terms on us. And for 12 years, she sat down and did nothing. Now somebody is doing something. She should be quiet for us to do what that person is doing instead of bringing frivolous charges against the president.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. And I don't know what the law says, but if nobody is supposed to campaign before campaign is officially open, then what the president did by saying vote yes or no to this, that's considered campaign. If any candidate is campaigning or is saying vote for me, that too is considered campaign. I should have the last word on that because this is my show and it's intentional for me. But let's bring in our first caller for the day, for the night, and that will be Hassan Keith, if that's the name. Caller.
Yes. Yeah. How are you?
Good. Your name and where you calling from?
Kev Hassan from Maryland.
Okay, Kev Hassan, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here to be unpacked, and well, let me start with the last one. And there's something called promotion, then making a political campaign. What the president puts on the billboard is a promotion. It's not a political campaign. This is not 2023. The president is not campaigning. It's promotion. When you see the president picture on it, it attracts you, and you see it, and then you go after it, you read about it, and then you try to see if we can put it in place. That's one. Two, let's go in the case of Mike Jabate and Christmas. Political and crossing from party to party, it's not uncommon. Every time you guys go up and you bring panelists in there, we have to look in the broad political landscape and also look at where we get our political tradition from, the United States. There is political crossing going on in this country every day. If you watch a convention yesterday, you see a Democrat from Georgia endorsing Trump. It happened. But what is uncommon is the insults we have. When D-Flow crossed over, there was no insult. When with Christmas crossover, it went back, not crossover. This Christmas and Jabate as in sedition. And Christmas always say that. He always say I'm sedition. He just endorsed Dillon. When he went back, there was a barrage of insults and fighting. And this is we shouldn't do that. When you guys sit on this panel, you're trying one of your main thing you guys need to look at is the education for our people, because our people don't know that political crossing is common. It happened everywhere. Everywhere people cross. There was and people who run as a Democrat, now they are Republican. People, you know how many Republicans endorse Joe Biden every day, and people crossing. We see the first black chief of staff was appointed by George Bush, and those two Democrat presidents. We have seen it every day. Why can't we educate our people instead of saying it's maybe financial, it may be this? That is the game of politics. Politics is interest. If I can support, I can support and George we are today, and tomorrow support Cummings. That does not make me because of financial or because of this. It doesn't go that way. If that's your interest, where your interest lies, sometimes it's ideology, what you feel the person is selling. Not so much.
Hassan, we see that. I mean, interest. We talked about that earlier, but we see a pattern here. We started with Oscar Cuya because when he joined the NDPL, all the charges were dropped. We saw, so we look at the pattern of how when people cross capital, what happens, or the reason. And one reason we say here is most of the time these things are not driven by any ideology. So make your point and conclude.
Well, not all you think driven by finance or of affiliation or favors. Some driven by ideas. So what I'm saying is let's educate our people, because our people go on the streets fighting people because you cross over. We need to let our people know that crossing over is common. You can do that. It's not out of a lack of integrity. It's not.
All right.
Politics, you can cross over. Let's educate our people. Because if we don't do that, we're going to have more Christmas kind of hitting on the streets more than anybody. And the burden is on you guys that come every day to educate the people. Every day. They should know that it happened in America every day. Joe Lieberman was a Democrat, run as a Democrat, become a vice president candidate under the Republicans. It happened in this country. We should stop thinking that it's lack of integrity. That's why our people are crossing over. No, it don't have nothing to do with lack of integrity. You can do it. It's okay. Let our people know it's okay to cross over. It's okay for DFLO to go against the government. It's okay. Let our people know that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Your points are clear. Very well spoken. Let me bring in Mary Fisher. Our next caller, you are live. 0903, the last 4 digits.
Yeah, this is Alex Jones. Can you hear me?
Oh, Alex. Alex Jones, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Your name is Mary Fisher again?
Just call his name. He said Alex Jones. So let's leave it at that. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Go ahead, Mary Fisher.
Thank you very much. and a very good evening to all you guys, including my friend there, Mr. Coney. I agree with the previous caller that I think focus on Liberia is known for, educating Liberians. So I think it's only appropriate that some of the I would say chicanery in Liberia, this station or any other reputable station shouldn't be indulging in that kind of murky politics.
Hey, Alex, what are you talking about here? Focus on Liberia indulging in chicanery and murky politics. No. What did we do?
Well, but let me finish, Mr. C. Let me
But
finish my
you
comment.
just accuse
I
us of
said I
something
agree
we didn't
totally.
do.
Well, no, I'm talking about one of your
All right,
analysts.
go ahead.
So
Go
when
ahead.
I finish my question, then you will have the ability to respond.
One of them, yeah.
But basically, my question to your panelists and your analysts there, we recently just witnessed a coup in Mali, which has taken on a lot of world criticism, including West African, the ECOWAS criticism, and Liberia. From what I've observed, Mali's economy is 5 or more times better than Liberia. But one of the reasons for the coup was the economy in Mali. The people took to the streets because of their living standard. My question here is that there has been other coups in Africa, including Zimbabwe, where democratic leaders were overthrown by the military, and I think in Egypt, and so forth. The international community did not condemn these coups. My question here to your panelists is that under what circumstances do the people or the military have a right to step into a situation on behalf to protect the Constitution and the people?
Thank you. And our panelists, please jot that down. Let me bring in our next caller. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let me bring in Zina Doa. Zina, you are live.
Yes, this is Zina Dakinas Doa the future presidential aspiring, just for the record. But I have a question real quick.
Yet, so you can start campaigning.
No, it's not even this campaign. It's like maybe 10 years from now. I already prepared myself. So you remember that, Mr. Job, maybe 10, 15 years from now, if God gives us a long life. My question is that, what is it that people always trying to allude the Liberia political system to that of the U.S.? I hear people do that a lot. Liberia do not have a system. America has a system. When you're trying to make an attribute from a political party to that of the other, be at least logical about it. Be fair when you do that. Don't be comparing things that will never be proportional to each other. But anyways, when it comes to the issue of judge, we are putting a picture on the billboard. Like you said, Mr. Jar, you said there's campaigning, which is reasonable. Honestly, I don't have a problem with that. If it's campaigning, that's wrong. But I don't look at it as a big deal. My main concern is what is actually going on in Liberia. And for another thing, real quick, when will you guys start airing in Liberia, like at a radio station? Because you guys are the most informative platform for the record. So you guys have got to find a means to see if we can start airing these informative information back home, maybe on the radio or something, because people need these things. And just to conclude real quick, I don't look at it as a big deal. My big deal is, what is the Liberian government doing to really for the embedding of the people, to better the people life, when it comes to jobs and other stuff. That's what really concerns me a lot, because the people who see on Facebook here calling for Liberia, looking up, going live, those guys can really afford their daily bread. The people that we don't see are the baby moms that selling cold water back home. The people who have access to come on Facebook and explain how just we are doing. That's some of the concern. Not just so we are putting picture up there trying to be flamboyant. And I think they should reduce the term to maybe 5 years for president and 4 years for representative, instead of 7 and all that. But at least we've got to start from somewhere. So that's a good thing. And I did support the referendum, except I got little hiccups when it comes to the citizen, the part of the citizenship, the dual citizenship. I do support that, but there are some clauses that I'm trying to observe that doesn't make a lot of sense. But guys, thanks for the show, man. We've got to start airing the show back home. I will sit back and listen.
Thank you, and we can talk that offline. And gentlemen, Zina brought that up, so let me kind of talk about that now. We are making people in Liberia to get on the radio station in Liberia requires money. Some of them will charge a little bit. I mean, something very modest just for their data. So some of them will charge us something like $100 monthly. So we are exploring this possibility, $100 to $200 monthly for the show like this to be carried on the radio in Liberia. So we'll be kind of doing a fund drive. So if you can support at least for a month, with $100 or $150 around there, the show can be carried on a radio station in Monrovia. And we want to throw that out there, and people that are willing to support, that can help us, we can do that as we strive to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Let's go back to our panelists. You heard our callers. Mr. Finley.
So first thing, I don't know what Alex is talking about chicanery or whatever it is. But I think there's a relevant issue to Liberia, and it's no joke, and we're not here to talk about something funny. So
well, let me explain that, because I think the previous caller said we are taking carpet crossing to be strange. That is something that is foreign, but people cross carpet because of interest. So we should be able to educate Liberians that are because of interest. What he failed to realize is interest can be money, interest can be personal, interest can be or lack of integrity and so forth. So Alex now is building on that and saying, we are not doing a good job to tell the people that, hey, it's normal for any of these guys to cross carpet. What's the big deal? Your take.
So the reason why I think Alex's statement is completely wrong, because he wants us to discuss Mali and why the African nations are not addressing that. By the way, Kev is an old friend. Thank you, Kev, for coming on the show. I just saw your number and I sent you a text today. Thank you for coming on the show. And Kev's point here is, Kev, like you just said, Kev is talking about the fact that the movement in politics is a natural thing. That happens a lot. It happens a lot, and it happens everywhere. Over here in America, it happens based on ideology. That's an interest. In Liberia, it happens primarily because of money at this stage. At this current stage, it primarily happens because of money and people staying in power. We already concluded on that earlier in the show. The people want to pot the ball. I think that was a consensus when we move forward. When I get to Alex's point, Alex is saying the coup in Egypt, the coup in Mali, why the African nations got together, something happened in Zimbabwe, something didn't happen in Zimbabwe. All these things here, when you see nations getting together and putting a huge tariff and putting what it did, they had a ban, or was it they enforced something on Mali? I did lose my train of thought right now. And if the government, the military people decided to turn it over to civilian rule. I do not know when in any constitution anywhere where they say the military can take over the country. I know there's constitution in
Mr. Finney, we're not discussing that. I don't want Alex to be the one to introduce a whole new segment that we're not discussing. So I think we should leave that thing. Focus on Liberia was able to cover the Mali issue in 2 separate shows. Let Alex go on YouTube and watch those shows. We're not discussing that here.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
Yeah,
you're pretty good. You're a real general opinion. So, and to the last caller point, I really like the fact that he brought up, like, I really don't care. Yes, if it's wrong, it's wrong. They shouldn't be campaigning when they're not time to campaign. That's the wrong. Wrong is wrong. I don't care who is saying to put anybody in jail or do anything about it, but it's just wrong. The timing of it is wrong. But the idea behind the idea behind the referendum, they're great. They're great ideas. But wait for the right time to do the right thing. If the right thing is done wrong, it's wrong. There's only one way to do the right thing, is to do it right. Right? And that's, as far as us getting the show back, getting the show to Liberia beyond radio station, we look forward to the day. Us can pick a few months.
Thank you.
So I think that's what they call it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I know Mr. Jai is trying to hide something, but I don't want to highlight. It is important, because for that viewer, that caller, to make comment on it, we have been making effort. We have almost talked to almost every radio station there is in Liberia. Either they would not come back to us when they promised to get back to us, either they would not take our call. But we are in conversation with one of the radio stations that covers 9 counties in Liberia. Conversation is, fruitful thus far. So probably this week or next week, we should be on the air. It is not on our side. On our side of the discussion, we are clear. We have made our commitment. So if they follow through this week or next week, Focus on Liberia will be on the air. When that happens, we will be able to share that information with you who love what we do here. And if you ever want to contribute, you can reach out to us. We don't do Cash App. We don't do GoFundMe. If you want to contribute, you appreciate what we do here, reach out to us and make that contribution. Thank you.
I think you heard Mr. Finley say he's making a commitment for a couple of months. You heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Cooney, respond to our callers.
Well, as soon as removed the Malian military takeover from discussion, so I'm not gonna go there.
No, don't go there, please.
But with regard to extending our operations in Liberia, I myself am fully in support of that, and we can always talk offline as to how it can be done. Going back to the issue of the billboard again, like the other caller said, the billboard is purely informational, it's promotional. And again, I'll be taking my point that no one is violating any law. All of the candidates in this election, whether prospective or nominated, they've all have flyers about themselves, seeking the different positions in their respective counties. So it is not campaigning, it's giving people information. Webon Kune is running to be senator for Sano County. That is different from actual campaigning where Webon Kune is going from door to door, organizing. And so, we have, like one of the callers said, this platform, we have an obligation to educate our people on these matters. And the way the councillor spoke was very condescending. If you read the entire thing, very condescending. If the president want good, the president need to get good advisors. Some of us are here, we don't even need pay. That's a very condescending statement on issue that is not even significant. It's not even significant. And if we go by our standard, everybody will be in violation. And the only body in the country that regulates our politics, our election, is the National Election Commission. So we have to keep these things intact. Our people have been misinformed over the years for so many times, but so many educated people like us, telling them different things. And I think we need to be a little bit careful how we speak on national issues. And this is why my reaction came forth the way it came forth, because sometimes when these things are left unresponded to, people take them to be the truth. There is no campaigning. What the president doing is promotional, is information. Just like candidates for various positions in the county are putting themselves on Facebook, are printing different posters about themselves that they are running for offices. If the appropriate time for campaign comes, then the campaign will be done. If the councillor don't know the difference between promotional materials and campaigning, then that's our problem. She should not ascribe that to the president. That's the point I'm making.
You are very exercised over this, Mr. Cooney.
Yes, because like I'm passionate about it, because like I said, our people have been misled so many times by people that we claim have the experience, have the knowledge, that are educated. But all of the problems of Liberia are the problems these people put on our country. And the issue of Madam Boo is really an issue because she had the time. She had the time to make these changes. She gave us the 9 years and the 7 years. Not only that she gave it to us during that time, but she remained very quiet for the past 12 years. Did nothing to change these conditions. And to be offended by a billboard and being condescending in the process, she needed a real sharp response. That we're not going to take those kind of misleading information from anyone anymore.
Mr. Cooney, you and myself are in 100% agreement on this. I read the article. At some point, she said, let the president take it down. And look, the president and myself are not friends, politically speaking, but we have to be very respectful when we communicate, especially somebody of her stature and education and experience, should know how to communicate in a more responsible and effective manner so that the person to whom you are speaking can find time to see reason in whatever you are suggesting and act. But clearly, in her the article is on front page. Go and read it. Look at the language carefully. She was very condescending. That is unfortunate on her part. She has a point, it's a right to say that, oh, the president is campaigning. But, the manner in which, we are talking about the likes of Prophet King and then Costa and many other people that are insulting on social media. But as an educated person, if you come out in the condescending manner, where are you placing yourself? Are you placing yourself in the same, shoe like others we are condemning because of their toxic political language? I think that is unfortunate, and I agree with Mr. Cooney. She needed to get, a large, that tough and firm, for her to get into a place. They hurt Liberia. She's responsible for all the long tenures that we have. Mr. Cooney is right. She was quiet for 12 years and said nothing. And now she want to come like a dog barking in the yard.
Mr.
No.
Sear, is this a fact that this lady was quiet for 12 years and does?
Yes, she was quiet. I never
nothing?
read a single article
Right.
about her talking about the terms. And now there's something being done about it. She's complaining about Bilbo. And not only that, she's being condescending in that manner. That is unacceptable on her part. And I'm not going to apologize for helping Mr. Cooney to give us some political latches here. Thank you.
Mr. Cooney is laughing.
He's laughing. See?
All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we want to thank our viewers and contributors. Just know that I don't entirely agree with the two of you. I don't want to blame Mrs. Councilor Boo for what we in. She was just a member of the Constitution Committee. That does not mean that she gave us the 9 years. This was almost 40 years ago. What have you done about that? And you sit here blaming and complaining. We need to do something, and this is the time. Your final thought, guys. Let me start with Mr. Cooney. I don't want to hear that boo thing again.
that boo thing, he even wrote a post about it and bashing the old man. Yeah, leave the old man alone. At least I help you now. Leave her alone.
This is the second gag order that has been imposed on this show, but again, I will honor it. So I will move to my closing remark. Look, I always like to take this time to appeal to the Liberian people. We have to organize ourselves on the basis of shared vision for our country. We have to improve the politics in our country. The governance structure in our country has not helped us for the past 172 years. And this is why we are advocating for something much more different. We have to decentralize governance in our country. We have to distribute powers between the national government and our local regions. We have to demystify the office of the president. We have to reduce the powers that is in Monrovia, either at the level of the executive, at the level of the legislature. We have to start thinking about a new kind of legislature. Do we really need a permanent legislature in Liberia? Can we examine concepts like a part-time legislature? These are issues that we need to put on the table that should bring people together. I want to believe when you bring people together around these issues, the time will be spent on analyzing these issues rather than these cheap bellicose, cursed, vulgar-driven politics that we have. If I bring Finlay, I bring Dennis Jah, bring Asuni, and we say, let's discuss decentralization, it's going to take us time. We will not even have the time to curse anybody. If I put you around and say, look, let us look at our legislature, a country with $500 million budget. Do we really need a permanent legislature that takes about $40 million of our budget? When in fact, we have other economies that are much more stronger and larger than us that operate on a part-time legislature. These are issues for which politicians should come together to organize. If we don't have any of these issues, then what we have in our politics will be the transactional nature of it. There will be no issue to work together on. It will be the curse language. It will be the vocal talk. It will be this association of politicians with lousy, loose, far-mouthed people because they want attention. These things here, the other things that talk about decentralizing our government, they are, but they can be done. Civic education is hard, but it can be done. Adult literacy is hard, but it can be done. Let's look for a group of Liberians that will organize themselves around this issue. That is the only way I think we will make our politics better. That's the only way we will transform this current quantitative political environment we have to a much more qualitative environment that will respond to the needs of the Liberian people. Thank you.
You don't have the Kuni to defeat us. You don't have the Kuni. You are wasting your time. Mr. Philip.
Yeah, so I will close tonight by saying there's a statement somebody made earlier when you're reading the comments. You say like, it's not a serious place. That's why all the smart people are leaving. You know the problem with the smart people leaving? The president said it. When the smart people leave, the people that are there, they don't want to rule. The people that left there didn't want to rule. So there's a misnomer to think that because Liberia doesn't have like level educated people, wherever the case is, you take your level of education, understanding, and sit on the outside, but want to dictate your understanding to the people that are already on the inside. It's hard to do. It's impossible, in my opinion, to do. I believe that coming together, having serious discussions with intent of resolution, not just discussions just to have just for free talk, with intent for resolution and a targeted goal for one thing. Let's say I believe like I don't think most governments can work on multiple things at multiple times, but it should be one agenda, primary agenda for every government in Liberia at every point in time. Yeah, roads is a good thing. I believe roads is a good thing, but I believe also corruption is a major thing. So let's construct jails. Let's fund police. Let's make judges. Let's start getting competent judges in places to make better decisions. Let's start having people being investigated differently. You know, there's a thing in Liberia that I realized I didn't know that a person can go to a judge and a judge can just read a writ for your arrest. No prosecutor know about it. A person go to a judge read a writ for arrest. Somebody, the police come and pick you up. The sheriff come and pick you up with that writ for your arrest. So the prosecutor don't have to prosecute based on what you explain to the judge, and then the judge, now the evidence they got against you. So there's a lot of problems, many problems. And I believe the reason why those problems happen, these decisions were made to cause these problems that we have. They were made in silos. It wasn't discussed for everybody to come to everybody understanding. If somebody felt away about something, they put a rule on the law, they put a law in the book. So that's why I think we need to come together, have better discussions, have more of these discussions that we're having, disagree on things, because I always tell people all the time, if we're all going to agree, then there's no reason for me to be here. If we're all going to say yes, there's no reason to be here. I want to have somebody that disagree with me because I want to learn something new. So let's have these discussions more often and try to get this thing to a broader base, right? Civic education is good. Who's going to pay for it?
We having one tomorrow,
the
right?
government not going to pay.
Focus on Liberia.
All right. So besides that, and thank you guys. I would like to end by saying thanks for having me, and hopefully look forward to be back.
Thank you so much. We want to thank you guys for coming, and also our viewers. Mr. Sear, you can close us. Mr. Jones is going after you here, Mr. Sear.
Mr. Jones is wasting his time. I'm in charge here, and I needed to put him in order. We have the friendship. We maintain that friendship, but he needed to be brought to that checkman. Folks, this is what I have for you. It is called job politics. Mr. Kunin call it reactionary politics. Or some people call it triactional politics. I think Kunin will agree with me, it's also job politics. And so you jump into this group. They make all the noise because they know that the voters only listen to the noise. And they make the noise and they make the noise. And so when somebody is talking about things seriously, trying to be analytical, looking at things from the inside and outside, our people don't come to listen. Because you are not insulting, because you are not putting somebody else's down. And that is frustrating for our politics. And that's all we see all over the place. Dennis Jah is a poor. I am a poor by this. Where are we going with this? If we continue on this trend, fellow Liberians, we will continue to get politicians who don't mean well for us. Because the noise has clouded the politics. We're not talking about the issue seriously. Everybody taking their side. Everybody is like on their side and they sing that hallelujah politically to their side. Wrong or right, they don't care. They don't care because they want that job and they must belong. And that is sad politically. And that's why I'm asking you to join Focus on Liberia, to educate, to elevate and promote all things Liberia by contributing to what we do here at Focus on Liberia. My name is Anthony. I co-hosted with Mr. Dennis Jah. Oh, what a political Wednesday it has been. Thank you and bye-bye, folks.
Thank you.